Chapter 30-45. Yi Qinghan and Jian Bugui's souls became one. It was a pure fusion without any distracting thoughts. At this moment, Yi Qinghan also seemed to have fused with the secondary universe. However, he only borrowed Jian Bugui's perception. He couldn't use the power of the secondary universe on his own. After a long time, Yi Qinghan let go of Jian Bugui and fell into silence. At this moment, he understood how far he was from the sovereign realm. It was very, very far. It was so far away that ordinary people would feel despair. However, to Yi Qinghan, it was just 2 steps. Sage, great sage. After taking these 2 steps, it didn't matter whether he could become a sovereign or not. Yi Qinghan meditated in Jingfan Mountain for decades. Every day, he would discuss the Tao with Jian Bugui and comprehend the power of the universe. Sometimes, he would follow Jian Bugui to other secondary universes and watch her do some boring things. In his opinion, what Jian Bugui could do was seriously incompatible with her cultivation. She could have stopped the war, but she didn't want to stop it. She was just calm and saved as many people as she could. Yi Qinghan looked at Jian Bugui and asked curiously, "Why didn't you stop such a meaningless war?" "Existence is the reason. Everyone has their own greed. I shouldn't force my own thoughts onto others," Jian Bugui replied calmly. Yi Qinghan was speechless. He couldn't see through Jian Bugui at all. If it were him, he would have crushed the upper echelons of both sides and forcefully taken over. Then he would have reorganized according to his will. However, Jian Bugui did nothing. It was 2 different paths. 2 paths that didn't fit together. Finally, Yi Qinghan didn't say anything else. Since he couldn't accept it, he had to walk his own path. "Bugui, I should go back," Yi Qinghan said seriously. Jian Bugui smiled and said, "Go back. You've been with me for too long. You can't learn anything. If you need anything, you can come to me directly. Don't be shy." Yi Qinghan bowed slightly and then left. While Yi Qinghan was in Jingfan Mountain, Yi Qinghan brought Jiang Jingtian's son, Jiang Qiufeng, into the star-profound sage holy land. Sages usually wouldn't meet people of this level. However, the star-profound sage still met the 2 of them on account of Yi Qinghan. After listening to Yi Qinghan's will, Xing Xian was silent for a long time. At this time, it was obvious that Fang Xian wanted to deal with Yi Qinghan. Moreover, he was contacting the other sages of the older generation. Therefore, Xing Xian was also considering that once Fang Xian made his move, it would be like a thunderbolt. He would not give Yi Qinghan a chance. It was impossible for the crazed manner to be a match for all the sages working together. Even if the star-profound sage sided with the crazed manner would not be able to win. "Lord Sage, my crazy manner's Yen Emperor has reached the sage realm. He now has the battle strength of a sage. If you are willing to side with Crazy Manner, my father has said that you can choose between the Sky Patrol subrealm and the Purple Sun subrealm." Yi Qinghan bowed and said. The star-profound sage smiled and said indifferently, "Even if Yen Emperor becomes a sage, Crazy Manner only has 2 sages. Including me, there are only 3 people. 3 against 8. If we can't win, the experts of the 8 great holy lands will all come out. Crazy Manor and Star-Profound Sage Holy Land will be razed to the ground. What about 7 against 4? Yi Qinghan bowed and asked. The Star-Profound Sage's eyes flashed coldly. He stared at Yi Qinghan and asked in a deep voice, "Did Manor Lord Yi persuade another sage to make a move?" "Sage, I'm not sure yet," Yi Qinghan replied honestly. The Star-Profound Sage looked at Yi Qinghan and pondered for a long time. The other sages were not scary. At least in his opinion, they were not a big deal. However, Yi Qinghan was different. He could borrow the power of the divine bird and fuse with it. He could surpass the other sages. This kind of person could not be left alive for long. Not only did the Star-Profound Sage want to kill Yi Qinghan, but he also wanted to seize the divine bird and refine this special ruler's origin. "Go back and tell Manor Lord Yi that I will make a move at the crucial moment," the Star-Profound Sage said indifferently after pondering for a while. "Thank you, Lord Sage. I will take my leave." Yi Qinghan bowed and left the hall. Jiang Qiufeng was waiting outside the Holy Lands Training Hall. At this moment, Yi Qinghan did not feel that his mission was completed. The star-profound sage's answer was ambiguous. Even if his answer was firm, it could be seen from his tone that he could change his mind at any time. Let's go back first, Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice. At the same time, Di Longtian and Lin Shukong, the two first and second generation experts, crossed the Qiu Tian domain and arrived at the Purple Sun subrealm. In the Qianyi sacred ground, the two of them trekked through mountains and rivers and entered the Qianyi Sacred Grounds training hall in an extremely low-key manner. Qian Yixue was currently receiving a visit from Fang Xian, the new sage. The last person Fang Xian visited was Qian Yixue. The reason why he put her last was naturally because there was something more important. Marriage alliance. Fang Xian actually wanted to marry Qian Yixue. Qian Yixue looked at Fang Xian with disbelief in her eyes. She felt that she had misheard. Fang Xian, you are really bold. I am from the same generation as your father. You actually want to marry me? Are you still dreaming? Also, can you tell me how Sage Fang Yu died? Qian Yixue scolded coldly. Fang Xian smiled. He did not look sad at all because of his father's death. He was a typical smiling tiger. Qian Yixue, I have liked you since a long time ago. However, due to my identity and status, I did not dare to confess to you. However, it is different now. I have inherited all the power of a sage. Coupled with my own combat strength, I can completely defeat Yi Qinghan with my current strength. If you marry me, the entire subrealm will be ours, Fang Xian said with a smile. Qian Yixue snorted and waved her hand. You can go back. I am already old. I no longer care about personal matters. Fang Xian said shamelessly, Qian Yixue, there's no need to reject me so quickly. If you think that I'm not strong enough, I don't mind proving it to you. Yi Qinghan is like the sun in the sky, but I can crush him with a single step. Qian Yixue sneered. She did not know much about Yi Qinghan's strength. However, Little White Cloud was probably enough to defeat Fang Xian. Come and talk to me after you defeat Yi Qinghan. Qian Yixue said coldly. Fang Xian smiled arrogantly and said, Then it is settled. When I bring Yi Qinghan's head back, I hope Sage Qian Yixue will not reject this junior's love. Qian Yixue could sense Fang Xian's strength. Not only did he absorb Sage Fang Yu's power, but he also surpassed him. His combat strength might not lose to Yi Qinghan's. If Yi Qinghan did not have Little White Cloud, he might not be able to win. Fang Xian turned around arrogantly and left the hall. He happened to see Di Longtian and Lin Shukong, the two experts of Kuang Manor. He did not know them, but they were wearing Kuang Manor's robes and the tokens on their waists were also Kuang Manor's tokens. Fang Xian stared at the two and clenched his fists. He said coldly, Before I kill Yi Qinghan, I will first satisfy my cravings with the two of you. I will also let Yi Qinghan understand that I, Fang Xian, am not to be trifled with. With a thought, Fang Xian's killing intent enveloped the two. The two were shocked and immediately drew their swords. However, how could they fight against a sage as progenitors? Wait, envoys are not killed when two armies fight. Moreover, they are here to visit this palace. If you kill them here, won't you be accusing me of being heartless and unjust? Fang Xian, you better not mess around in this palace. Qian Yixue scolded in dissatisfaction. Fang Xian sneered and stared at Qian Yixue. Chapter 3046. Fang Xian stared at Qian Yixue with murderous intent. Even a sage from the previous generation shuddered. Fang Xian was too strong. He relied on his actions to gain merit points. He wasn't a virtuous paragon, but he was much stronger than an ordinary sage. Add to that his own strength and sage power, Qian Yixue knew she wasn't his match. Qian Yixue took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, What's the point of a sage competing with two juniors? If you really want to show off your power, then go kill Yi Qinghan for me to see. Don't make me look down on you. Fang Xian sneered and turned to Di Longtian and Lin Shukong. He said in a hoarse voice, I will spare your lives for the sake of Saint Qian Yixue. But if you kneel down and kowtow to me 3 times, I will let you go. Di Longtian coldly replied. Lin Shukong pulled out his sword and glared at Fang Xian. He could die today but not kneel. You two ants, I gave you a chance to live but you didn't. Fong Xian's murderous intent surged again. He waved his hand to kill the two. Hum. Qian Yishue's bone whip shook and turned into a bone sword. She coldly stared at Fong Xian and said firmly, Fong Xian, if you want to make a move today, you'll have to step over my dead body. Fong Xian frowned. The evil and cold glint in his eyes made people shudder. Sage Qian Yishue, why did these two from Insane Prefecture come to your sacred ground? Could it be that you've fallen for Yi Qinghan? Fong Xian questioned. Qian Yishue angrily rebuked, sacred grounds often interact with each other. What does my relationship with Insane Prefecture have to do with you? Can other sacred grounds also say that you have an affair with other sages when they visit your sacred ground? Haha, Fong Xian's expression changed very quickly, from a cold expression to a hearty laugh, but that fake smile made people feel very uncomfortable. Sage Qian Yishue, it's best to chase these two out. Insane Prefecture will collapse within 20 years. No one will be able to protect you if you stay with them. Fong Xian sneered. Qian Yishue replied unhappily, it's none of your business. I'd like to see how you're going to make Kuang Manor collapse in 20 years. Fong Xian was so angry that he laughed and soared into the sky. Then open your eyes wide and take a good look. Yi Qinghan is nothing compared to all the heroes in the world. I can destroy a person who relies on a spiritual pet to fight against a sage with a wave of my hand. Space distorted and Fong Xian disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. Di Longtian and Lin Shukong clenched their fists as they looked in the direction Fong Xian had disappeared. They had a very bad feeling in their hearts. Su Kong, mobilize the Assassin Legion and notify the Insane Manor as soon as possible. We need to prevent Fong Xian from launching a surprise attack on the Insane Manor, Di Longtian said in a low voice. Lin Shukong nodded and bowed to Qian Yishue. Thank you, Lord Sage, for speaking up for me. I have some matters to attend to, so I shall take my leave. Qian Yishue nodded and said, be careful, this Fong Xian is really crazy. Lin Shukong quietly retreated, leaving behind Di Longtian, the only expert of a generation who was traveling outside. Di Longtian considered himself a junior and bowed. Junior Di Longtian is here to visit Lord Sage under the orders of the Insane Manor Lord. I hope we can mend our relationship with your sacred ground and form an alliance. Qian Yishue's fingers trembled as a trace of helplessness appeared on her mature face. She said in a low voice, if the Insane Manor doesn't improve in these years, I'm afraid it will be very dangerous. Fong Xian has already convinced a few other sages to attack the Insane Manor. In terms of numbers, the other side is enough to suppress your Insane Manor. My attitude is no longer important. Di Longtian was shocked. He didn't think that the sages of the secondary universe would act faster than Yi Qinghan. Di Longtian bowed again and said, what the Mansion Lord means is that if both sides suffer heavy losses, he hopes that Lord can lend a hand. If possible, the Insane Manor will definitely repay you. I know, but I don't dare to give a definite answer. Qian Yishue waved her hand. As far as I know, the other sacred grounds have already mobilized their experts and are ready to set off for the ancient immortal subworld. You should go back too. Di Longtian sighed. None of the 9 sages would gamble with their lives. Qian Yishue was the same. Junior will take his leave. Di Longtian bowed. Qian Yishue waved her hand and didn't say anything else. At this moment, at least 5 sages from the Purple Sun subworld and the Sky Survey subworld moved. The Turtle Sage, Heaven-Blessed Sage, Fong Xian Sage, Shrouding Sky Sage, and Song Mu Sage led the experts of the 5 sacred grounds. Their goal was simple, to completely raze the Insane Manor to the ground. The other 4 sages' attitudes were vague. No one knew who they would help. The Star Profound Sage didn't say anything, nor did Qian Yishue. Xiao Yu Sage didn't appear, and Redbud Sage didn't appear. However, with 5 sages working together, even if Yen Emperor stepped into the sage realm, the Insane Manor would only have 2 sages. As soon as Lin Shukong entered the sky-seeking domain, he saw a large army coming from afar. It was the army led by Tsang Mu Sage. They were heading towards the ancient immortal subworld. Lin Shukong didn't dare to stay for long. He increased his speed and rushed forward. However, it was clear that this wasn't the only sacred ground rushing towards the ancient immortal subworld. Lin Yen had just finished reorganizing all the forces in the Sky Survey subworld when there was a big change at the border. The Turtle Sage personally led a large group of experts here, forcibly commandeering the chaotic heavenly domain and entering the seeking heaven domain. Lin Yen didn't send anyone. He went to the sky seeking domain personally. The speed of the army was obviously slower than Lin Yan's personal speed. Lin Yen borrowed the Star Profound Sacred Grounds Primal Chaos Heavenly Domain and paid a large amount of money. Lin Yen rushed to the Insane Manor Immortal Kingdom day and night and arrived at the Sky Seeking Domain even earlier than Lin Shukong. After the Qitian region received the news, a message arrow shot into the void, shaking the heavens and the earth. This kind of message arrow was only used in an emergency. A moment later, the main cities in all directions followed suit. Yi Qinghan just returned to the heaven-suppressing palace and saw the news. He couldn't help but frown. Feng Xian and the other sages of the secondary universes couldn't hold back anymore. But I wonder how many sages are making a move this time. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and murmured. Spies were quickly sending back news from all directions. The assassin army was busier than ever before. Many experts from the secondary universes were on the move and their target was the Insane Manor Immortal Kingdom. The tallest tree in the forest would be destroyed by the wind. Obviously, the Insane Manor was too outstanding. They had no choice but to work together against them. Yi Qinghan stepped onto the sky-gazing mountain and ordered the Against Heaven's Daos to cross the ancient immortal world. The experts of the Insane Manor who were still cultivating were instantly awakened, including Yen Emperor. Boom. The Yen Emperor's great way was above the firmament. The sage's might was vast and mighty. Although he was not a sage, his aura was even more threatening than a sage's. Chapter 3047. Before the 5 sacred grounds gathered, Quang Manor was the first to do so. Quang Manor's army, which had not been mobilized for many years, was once again reorganized. Their aura was still as majestic and uniform as before. Even if the army was a few times stronger than Quang Manor's army, it was still nothing in front of them. Quang Manor's forces were mainly concentrated in the East's Chaos Heavenly Domain and North Xiong Celestial Empire's North Xiong City. The West was not connected to Qiu Heaven Domain, making it impossible for the enemy to come from there. As for the South, Jingfan Mountain had Jian Bugui. She might not take the initiative to attack, but if the enemy wanted to invade Heaven's Suppressing Palace, they would have to go through Jingfan Mountain. Yi Qinghan was stationed outside the Chaos Heavenly Domain. At this moment, the 5 Sacred Grounds army had yet to reach the ancient immortal world's entrance. They were still far away, and since they did not declare war on Quang Manor, Yi Qinghan naturally could not attack them one by one. Yi Qinghan led half of Quang Manor's older generation while Yen Emperor led the other half. Even Jian Chenxue and Green Lotus Sword Saint were preparing for battle. Saint Extreme Thieving Heaven had been hiding in Quang Manor Celestial Empire all these years. He often asked Zhang Daoling for advice, which gave him a clearer understanding of the sage's power. Although he was not a sage yet, he was far stronger than the others, except for Yen Emperor and Yi Qinghan. After all, once he cast his Space 9 level Profound, no one could see him. He could easily restrain a sage, and if he was lucky, he could even severely injure one. Although Yen Yunbei's battle prowess wasn't the best, his destructive power was. After years of hard work, he focused on studying the Space 9 layers of Extreme Saint Thieving Heaven. He had almost completely grasped it and surpassed it. However, he didn't learn any thieving techniques. Qitian Monkey King, Gu Qingyu, Mu Zhuang, Lin Wutan, Green Lotus Sword Saint, Jian Chenxue, Jiang Jingtian, Zhou Shuguang, Feng Huang, Mo Li, Li Feng, and Stan Wuxie were still the core strength of Quang Manor. No one could surpass them. However, the new juniors, Lin Mo and Yi Tong, had caught up with the second-generation experts. Together with Yi Chenxing, Hualing Tian, and Li Peiza, Quang Manor could hold up half the sky. The army was still under the command of the top military great sages. The Chess Saint, Void Saint Chess, Lu Outyan, and Di Longtian each had their own duties. The chess saint and his son were in charge of the first and second camps of the heaven-conquering camp. Lu Outyan was still in charge of the inner and outer sects of the Kuang manor. Di Longdan was in charge of the ancient massacre god. Yi Qinghan looked at the army and said in a low voice, "This battle is the final battle. At least for all of you, if you win this battle, you won't have to fight in the future. If you lose, then you won't have to fight anymore." Against virtuous paragons, no matter how many people there were, they wouldn't be enough. The location of this battle would definitely be the Chiu Heaven Realm and the Primal Universe. Haha, my crazy manor army will definitely win this battle. Lu Outyan laughed loudly. The army roared and bellowed, "We will win this battle." The ancient killing god had the will of the ancient killing god. At this moment, they were all in sync and their battle intent soared to the sky. At this time, Lin Xiankong and Di Longtian were returning from the Violet Sun subworld. They ran all the way without stopping and appeared at the barrier of the Chaos Heavenly Realm. "Boss, Feng Xian's power is beyond our imagination. He refined all of Sage Feng Yu's power and even obtained some fake merit points, causing his battle prowess to approach the virtuous Paragon realm. Even Sage Qian Yixue doesn't dare to fight against him." Di Longtian rushed over and hurriedly said. Yi Qinghan's aura was very calm. In the end, Feng Xian was not a virtuous paragon and only had fake merit points. If the laws of the secondary universe couldn't distinguish between real and fake merit points, then it would be too ridiculous. "It's fine, I can kill this person," Yi Qinghan confidently replied. Yi Qinghan and Supreme Yi could kill a sage by working together. With Little White's support, killing Feng Xian wouldn't be a problem. The problem was that he hoped that the other sages wouldn't interfere while he was killing Feng Xian. "Old Yen, the enemy will definitely split into two groups. One will come from the north while the other will come from the primal universe. With Feng Xian's personality, he will definitely come this way. Once I go all out to kill him, you must stop one of the sages. At most, there will be 3 or 4 sages here. At that time, Senior Zhang will restrain one while everyone else will risk their lives to stop the other." "Got it." Yen Yunbei's voice had arrived, but no one knew where he was. Meanwhile, at North Hun City, Flame King was still racing against time. He was only half a step away from refining the ruler's origin. Once he did so, he would be able to activate great merit points and become a true virtuous paragon. Ultimate Saint Thieving Heaven was hiding in the middle of the army with one leg crossed over the other. He was eating chicken legs and drinking immortal wine in a very uncomfortable manner. Come. Chess Sage, don't be so nervous. Have a drink with this old man." Ultimate Saint Thieving Heaven grinned and showed his row of big teeth as he said arrogantly. Chess Sage said indifferently, "When did you see me nervous? The battle between 2 armies is always the most exciting time for me. Your strength is nothing much, but you are more arrogant than me." Ultimate Saint Thieving Heaven said indifferently. Chess Sage sneered and said confidently, "With 10 million soldiers, I can exhaust you to death. As long as you fall into my formation, I guarantee that you won't be able to escape." "Ha!" Ultimate Saint Thieving Heaven laughed wildly. His mouth was covered in grease as he bared his teeth and said, "Very bold. Let's see how you will stop a sage later." Chess Sage shook his head and said indifferently, "Stopping a sage will result in a lot of casualties. However, stopping you won't result in a lot of casualties. In my formation, it is already not bad if you can use 30% of your 9th level space profound. Your lethality is not as good as a sage's. You have to admit this." Ultimate Saint Thieving Heaven was very dissatisfied and said provocatively, "After this daddy kills a sage, I will challenge Chess Sage's vortex formation when I have the time." Dong. At this moment, the war drums outside rumbled. It was so loud that it could be heard clearly from 2 main cities. The army was quickly mobilized. There was no need for Chess Sage as the commander could complete the mobilization. The Bone Sage was still the commander. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The war flags fluttered in the wind as the formation of the army changed unpredictably. The flags of Kuang Manor and Heaven Conquering Camp were raised at the same time and fluttered in the wind. On the North Road, Songmu Sage and Heaven Bestowed Sage had joined forces and led an army of 10 million. They did not want to be tainted with too much karma, so they needed the army to kill for them and wipe out the base of Kwang Manor. They only needed to kill the upper echelons and core forces of Kwang Manor. On the East Road, Fong Xian, Ancestor Turtle, and Fu Tian did not lead a large army. They were all top experts of the Holy Lands. Their goal was simple: to wipe out Kwang Manor and leave no one alive. They wanted to remove the belief and will of Kwang Manor. Boom! The seals of the Heaven-Seeking Domain and Primal Chaos Domain were directly broken. Fong Xian walked over forcefully. Although he was from the younger generation, he actually had the aura of a sage. Yi Qinghan stood at the center of the Heaven-Seeking Domain and Primal Chaos Domain. Seeing the three sages walk over, especially Fong Xian's smiling face, Yi Qinghan could not help but clench his fists. He really wanted to beat this guy up. Yi Qinghan, I made a bet with Sage Qian Yishue. The wager is her. If I can raise Kwang Manor to the ground in 20 years, she will marry me. Do you think I can do it? Fong Xian laughed and asked. Yi Qinghan replied indifferently, You can't do it. I dare to bet with you again. You won't live for more than 3 days if the other sages don't act. Chapter 3048. In the Heaven-Seeking Domain, the chaos of the Order of Chaos was terrifying, and it was all stirred up by the sages. Yi Qinghan blocked the entrance alone, and with a simple sentence, Fong Xian was forced to fight first. In order to become the number one under Virtuous Paragon, one had to defeat either Yi Qinghan or the Flaming King. Fong Xian grinned sinisterly. Ha, you want me dead in 3 days? You've got guts, but don't worry, I won't let you die so easily. You'll have to watch me raise Kwang Manor to the ground, and then watch me marry the Sage Beauty. Although she's old, she's still a beautiful woman. It'll be more fun to play with her, ha. Fong Xian laughed wildly. Yi Qinghan sneered. He didn't hide his strength. He also had merit. He had built the Crazy Manor for so many years, from a small plane to the current Crazy Manor Immortal Kingdom. None of the merit he had accumulated was fake. Boo. Rumble. Yi Qinghan's aura was majestic and his merit aura was vast. He was like a war Buddha. His gentle movement shook the entire insane heaven. Sun Chaser, do you have the guts to fight me and my boss? If you beat me, we'll call you grandson. If you lose, you'll call me grandpa, how about it? Supreme Yi hasn't fused with Yi Qinghan yet. He stood on Yi Qinghan's shoulder in his true form and proudly shouted. Good, I'm looking forward to hearing you call me grandpa. Fong Xian grinned. Yi Qinghan was disdainful. It wasn't easy for a sage to gain such a verbal advantage. The Turtle Ancestor and Shroud Sage couldn't help but laugh. This Fong Xian was indeed powerful, but he was like a nouveau riche without any foundation. It was obvious at a glance that he was so arrogant that he didn't even know what Supreme Yi was talking about. The Turtle Ancestor carried a large cauldron on his back. This was a turtle shell that had been refined for countless years. Even a sage's weapon couldn't pierce through it. This kind of person couldn't be killed unless a virtuous paragon could kill him. Shroud Sage had never revealed his true strength, so no one knew how strong he was. Yi Qinghan glanced at the two and said, Old Yen watched Shroud Sage. Today, Fong Xian and I will have a fair fight. No matter who wins or loses, you're not allowed to interfere. If you do, kill without mercy. Yen Yunbei specialized in assassination while the Turtle Ancestor specialized in defense. Yen Yunbei definitely couldn't kill the Turtle Ancestor, so arranging him to restrain Shroud Sage was the best arrangement. Don't worry, if you can defeat Sage today, I'll leave immediately and never to oppose the insane mansion. Sage Turtle's dignified eyes had a trace of luck. He was a completely opportunistic person. He would side with whoever had the upper hand. He was definitely an old fox. Sage Shrouding Heaven had a head of white hair, but he didn't have the demeanor of an immortal. The sinister light in his eyes caused one to shiver. He didn't say anything, but he had already made a decision. Yi Qinghan gestured with his hand. Fong Xian, as long as you don't run, you won't live past tonight. Yi Qinghan and Supreme Yi merged. Their sage aura surged and pushed back the chaotic energy created by the three sages. Then they stepped into the depths of the sky-seeking domain. Feng Xian was furious. His murderous intent surged. His chilling aura sent chills down people's spines. At this moment, Qian Yixue was hiding in the depths. At the same time, Xiaoyu Sage and Redbud Sage were also inside the sky-seeking domain. However, they didn't approach and were waiting for an opportunity. Their attitudes weren't clear. Perhaps they wanted to kill Yi Qinghan or Feng Xian, or perhaps both. None of this was important. The important thing was that Feng Xian and Yi Qinghan had entered the sky-seeking domain's primal chaos origin. This place was filled with ravines and black holes. Everything was in a barbaric state. No one had ever set foot here before. And this place was the most suitable battlefield for the two of them. Little white cloud wrapped around Yi Qinghan's limbs. Thin threads wandered around his body. With Yi Qinghan's peak strength, it was almost equivalent to 3 sages working together. In addition to Yi Qinghan's boundless merit, his combat power reached its peak. The 7-foot heavy saber appeared in Yi Qinghan's palm. It was made of the primal chaos origin and was indestructible. When the wind blew, the saber's blade whistled. It was extremely terrifying. Yi Qinghan closed his eyes and sensed the power of the sky-seeking domain and the primal universe. It wasn't that he couldn't sense the universe's power, but it was too little. He couldn't compare to Jian Bugui, but he was definitely stronger than Feng Xian. The power of the universe he sensed was increased by dozens of times by little white cloud. In an instant, the energy in the depths of the sky-seeking domain exploded. Black holes appeared, and the large ones swallowed the small ones. Even the ravines were penetrated. Feng Xian sucked in a breath of cold air. He realized that he couldn't even use the power of the sages. What kind of power is this? Feng Xian took a few steps back. He realized that the order of the surroundings had changed. He even took a few steps back. Yi Qinghan was fully focused on sensing the universe's power. If a sage attacked him from behind, he would be the first to die. It definitely wouldn't be Feng Xian. Rise. Yi Qinghan didn't answer Feng Xian. He slowly raised the heavy saber and slashed out 18 times in an instant. It was like 18 afterimages. The saber radiance rushed to the peak of the universe. Boom. 18 figures could be seen clearly. Each slash contained the power of the universe. In an instant, they merged into one and formed a single blade. It soared into the sky and split the sky-seeking domain. In the blink of an eye, it was above Feng Xian. This is the power of a sage. Boom. The sky-seeking domain was so stable that even the sages couldn't make it collapse. However, at this moment, the sky-seeking domain was believed to have created a huge black hole. It merged with the other ravines and primordial black holes and swallowed everything. It instantly affected an entire star field. If Yi Qinghan and Feng Xian weren't close to the army and the sky-seeking domain, even the sky-seeking domain in the ancient immortal world would have been swallowed. Boom boom boom. The chaotic energy rolled, wave after wave. No one dared to resist this kind of aftershock. Feng Xian was shocked. He was confident that he could suppress Yi Qinghan. He didn't expect Yi Qinghan to still have a trick up his sleeve. The sage's sword split into 3. The 3 flowers at one's prominence formed a word shape and attacked 7-foot berserk. In the primordial chaos of the universe, the 2 flames collided and the order of all things collapsed. Boom. Bang. Yi Qinghan's saber contained the truth of heaven and earth and the power of the universe. It forcefully split the 3 flowers at one's prominence and swept Feng Xian into the huge black hole. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Feng Xian's hair stood on end. His divine sword pierced through the order behind him in an attempt to stabilize his body. However, the void collapsed from the impact. His bones were shattered and blood flowed endlessly. Yi Qinghan's attack was powerful, but only he knew that he couldn't use the power of the universe after this attack. However, Feng Xian was injured and his Dao heart collapsed. He probably didn't dare to fight anymore. I want you dead at midnight. No one can keep you alive until midnight. Boom. Whoosh. Yi Qinghan gave up on using the power of the universe. He turned into 18 shadows and no longer gathered. Instead, he split into 18 different directions and attacked Fang Xian. Boom boom boom. Bang bang bang. Each strike was as fast as lightning. However, since Fang Xian had devoured all of Sage Fang Yu's power, he couldn't be useless. Each strike struck Yi Qinghan's shadows. The saber and sword were like smoke and extremely fast. Chapter 3049. Yi Qinghan's state dropped after the first attack. He could not be compared to Jian Bugui at all. Jian Bugui could mobilize the power of the universe at any time, but he had to maintain a high level of concentration. If the first attack did not kill the opponent, he would switch to the second attack. His state would drop immediately and he would return to his proper state. However, his proper state was not something an ordinary sage could handle. The sage power surged, and in an instant, thousands of sword shadows appeared. Although they were all blocked by Fang Xian was covered in blood and his bones were shattered. Boom! Yi Qinghan knocked away the sage sword and kicked Fang Xian's chest. He was unstoppable. Even the sage body could not block Yi Qinghan's kick. The kick sent him flying. His back bulged and the kick almost pierced through his chest. Fang Xian spat out a mouthful of essence blood, but the sword in his hand did not stop. With a flip of his wrist, the sword slashed down from above, directly at Yi Qinghan's ankle. Boom! Boom! This sword was enough to split the heavens and earth, but it did not cut Yi Qinghan's ankle. Sparks flew, and Yi Qinghan's body flipped in the void. Impossible! Fang Xian roared, I am the world's greatest sage. How can this sword not cut through your defense? This sword slashed on the ankle guard formed by the little white cloud, but even through the little white cloud, Yi Qinghan's leg bone cracked, and blood flowed non-stop. Boom! Yi Qinghan's sword slashed on the chaotic rock. He stepped on the primordial chaos and stood firmly. He held the 7 feet berserk in his hand, and a cold light shot out. Zeng zeng zeng, poof poof. Fang Xian retreated more than 100 miles, and looked at Yi Qinghan in disbelief. This battle made him very confused. Yi Qinghan's first attack was completely unmatched, and he was caught off guard. And his last attack did not cut through Yi Qinghan's defense. This was even more incomprehensible. Yi Qinghan's murderous intent intensified. This person could not be left alive. Now that Fang Xian was dead, the other sage's intentions could be severed. Zhong Kuang flipped his blade, taking advantage of the victory to pursue and attack. You're number 1 in the world? Today, I'll show you the true power of the sage. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan once again used the 18 saber techniques. The 9 levels of space profound meaning appeared, and each saber slashed out from a different space. It looked like an instantaneous attack, but only one of them had the ability to actually attack. However, Fang Xian felt a chill run down his spine. Boom! Bang! Fang Xian was flustered. He instantly activated the power of the sage to seal the area, but Yi Qinghan broke through it with lightning speed. Seal! Yi Qinghan let out a low roar. The order of the 10,000 mantras pressed down on him from all directions. He came this time to kill Yi Qinghan. How could he allow Yi Qinghan to kill Fang Xian? At the very least, both sides had to be injured so that he could benefit from it. The sword swayed in all directions. The pitch-black sky instantly shone brightly, and the universe's black hole seemed to be pierced through. When the sage sword appears, the world will submit. Shrouding Sky's sword was enough to make all living things submit and destroy the heavenly Tao. That was how it got the name Shrouding Sky. Just as he made his move, a cold light pierced through the clouds and a dagger appeared behind Sage Shrouding Heaven's back. Yan Yunbei had been waiting for this attack for a long time. He had been accumulating his power and was definitely at his peak. Poochie! Whoosh! Sage Shrouding Sky's flower plume was cut off, but it did not hurt his flesh. Sage Shrouding Sky reacted quickly. His figure flashed and escaped countless miles away. There was a white scar on his back that gradually turned purple. Sage Shrouding Sky grunted. Sage power surged and forced the poison out of his back. The corpse bug left his body and withered. How dare you sneak attack me? Sage Shrouding Sky roared. He drew his sword and walked again, stabbing at the place where Yan Yunbei disappeared. Hua! Yan Yunbei disappeared again without a trace. The 9 levels of space profundity could be displayed at its peak in the sky-seeking domain. He had already surpassed his master and was not inferior to extreme saint-thieving heaven. Sage Shrouding Sky did not see Yan Yunbei's appearance and thought it was extreme saint-thieving heaven. Thieving heaven, you are truly courageous. You offended Song Mu and Tianzong, and now you dare to offend me. Sage Shrouding Sky roared. Boom! Een! Shwa 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 shwa. Sage Shrouding Sky attacked indiscriminately, shattering the sky-seeking domain. However, he was still too late because Yi Qinghan and Supreme Yi worked together to stabilize the situation. Sage Shrouding Sky's blade pierced Fang Xian's chest while Supreme Ye's flaming sword pierced Fang Xian's throat, firmly restraining him. Chapter 30-50. Fang Xian was gripped in Yi Qinghan's hand, his body twisted as he was beaten to a pulp. He didn't even have time to unleash his strongest move. He didn't even know why he was defeated. Every time he used his strongest move, Yi Qinghan would somehow block it. Fang Xian roared, unwilling to give up. A hint of mockery appeared on Yi Qinghan's chiseled face. He pulled up his sleeve with his left hand, revealing the little white cloud on his wrist. He calmly said, "Because this is the companion of the sovereign's energy source. The Xing-Yi cloud is there to prevent the sovereign's energy source from being scattered when it is being gathered. Its defense is enough to block the devouring of the primordial black hole for a long period of time. With your little strength, it is impossible for you to break through its defense. I'll fulfill your little wish. Can you tell me how Fang Yu died?" Fang Xian roared, unwilling to give up. "I lost to the treasure, not to you. I'm still #1 in the world." Okay. You're #1 in the world. I won't fight with you for this title. Someone like you who would devour even your own family is the most shameless person in the world. I don't think anyone will fight with you for this title." Yi Qinghan shrugged. Fang Xian's eyes flashed fiercely. That old fart was too much of a hindrance. He deserved to die for helping me become #1 in the world. So you're saying that Fang Yu didn't die at my hands? You did devour him, right? Yi Qinghan asked coldly. Fang Xian roared, "Yes." Yi Qinghan, let's fight fairly if you have the guts. Crack. Yi Qinghan exerted force and broke Fang Xian's neck. The power of the sage swarmed over, suppressing the sage's soul. Where's the fairness in the world? Once you're dead, the entire secondary universe and the 3 subworlds will be at peace. Who in the world will dare to besiege Insane Mansion? Boom. In an instant, the sage's energy waves were vast and mighty, crushing Fang Xian's soul and destroying his life force. Once Fang Xian died, the turtle sage, who was about to attack, shrank back. As for the overturning sky sage, even if he had the power to overturn the sky, he couldn't hold up the sky alone. Yi Qinghan and Sovereign Yi merged and stepped onto the battlefield, stopping Sage Shrouding Heaven. Yan Yunbei only attacked once, but he managed to stop Sage Shrouding Heaven, giving Yi Qinghan enough time to kill Fang Xian. At this moment, he immediately retreated. Fu Tian was shocked and immediately retreated. He said to the Turtle Ancestor, "Turtle Ancestor, you hold back Yi Qinghan. I will be responsible for killing all the upper echelons of the crazy manor. We still have a chance." Slap. At this time, a bone dragon rushed into the sky and swam through the Qiu Heaven region, turning into a bone sword in midair. Qian Yixue appeared out of nowhere and stood at the entrance of the ancient immortal world. Sage Shut-In immediately frowned and scolded unhappily, "Qian Yixue, are you one of the 9 sages? Now that Fang Xian is dead, as long as we kill Yi Qinghan, the 8 sages will still be evenly matched. Do you want to become a slave in the future by standing out to stop us?" "I won't be a slave. As for you, I don't know," Qian Yixue said calmly. Sage Shutian's expression was extremely ugly. If the turtle ancestor was held back, he wouldn't be a match for Yi Qinghan. Sage Shut-In wanted to retreat, but would Yi Qinghan allow him to? Yi Qinghan's figure flashed and blocked Sage Shutian's path. He said coldly, Since you're here, don't think about leaving. As for the turtle ancestor, you can leave now. Sage Shutian was a fence-sitter, so why would he risk his life? When he saw that Yi Qinghan allowed him to leave, he immediately smiled and said, "Thank you, Manor Lord Yi. If you need, I can also help you get rid of Shutian and Fang Xian's subordinates." Sage Shutian was instantly enraged and roared, "Turtle ancestor, you cowardly turtle! You've been a turtle your whole life, and now you want to be a turtle? You're not worthy of being a sage." Yi Qinghan smiled and looked at the group of people brought by Turtle Ancestor. Many of them were experts in defense. It would be best to have them cooperate with him. If the Turtle Ancestor is willing to help, I'll be extremely grateful. In the future, when the three subworlds are united, your and Sage Jian Yishue's forces will not change. Yi Qinghan promised confidently. Then this old man will thank you first. Turtle Ancestor immediately cupped his fists and said, "Ush." Turtle Ancestor waved his hand, indicating that his forces were blocking Fang Xian and Shutian's escape route. Yi Qinghan said coldly, "Shutian, I'll give you a chance to live. Surrender, whether you can live or not depends on your performance." Hiss, Sage Shutian took a deep breath and looked at Qian Yishue and Yi Qinghan. He didn't know where Yan Yunbei was hiding, and Turtle Ancestor had betrayed him. He couldn't even defeat Yi Qinghan, so how could he fight against three sages? Boom! The Shutian sage sword pierced through the primal chaos land and gave up resistance. "I admit defeat. I only ask that you don't destroy this old man's children," Sage Shutian said in a deep voice. Yi Qinghan replied indifferently, "I didn't plan to deal with you in the first place. You're the ones who came to die. If the 9 sages worked together, my crazy manner would be weaker. However, with just a few sages, you're simply courting death." Whoosh, bang, bang. Yi Qinghan's figure flashed and slapped Sage Shutian's body several times. Sage Shutian's body went limp and he lost all resistance. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and took the Shutian sage sword. He looked at the Fang Xian Sacred Ground and Shutian Sacred Ground's army and said coldly, "Leave. It's best if you don't do anything. If you cause trouble, my crazy manner will find you." Without a sage, the army didn't dare to do anything. They all bowed and retreated. Sage Turtle Ancestor also had a fawning smile on his face. "Abode Lord Yi, there are also 2 sages from the northern part of the Crazy Mansion Immortal Kingdom. I wonder if Abode Lord Yi has any plans?" Yi Qinghan exhaled. If there were only 2 sages in the northern region, it wouldn't be a big deal. Flame Emperor and Ultimate Sage Thieving Heaven could deal with them. Whoosh. Yi Qinghan waved his hand. "Everyone from Crazed Manor, return to the northern war zone. If there are any casualties in Crazed Manor, don't let a single one of the 2 sages and their men escape." The Crazy Manor's experts didn't need to do anything. They quickly retreated into Crazy Manor and rushed north. At this moment, the battle in the northern region was more intense than at the Crazy Sky Realm because they were evenly matched. It wasn't like the Crazy Sky Realm where Turtle Ancestor was an opportunist. Whoosh, whoosh. The Mortal King sword in Flame Emperor's hand scanned the sky and sent Song Sage flying with 1 slash. Ultimate Sage Thieving Heaven lured away Heaven-bestowed Sage and killed his way into the depths of the galaxy. However, he didn't attack and was only stalling for time. Whoosh, whoosh. The Flaming Emperor was strong. The Renhuang sword covered the sky and evaded the attack. The Heavenly Dao retreated. The attack in the sky affected even the ground. The Tsongmu Sage was in despair like never before. He was completely suppressed and the aftershock was blocked by the Flaming Emperor. By using the power of the secondary universe, Flame Emperor had almost become a virtuous paragon. Chapter 3051. The battle in the Eastern Qiutian domain could not be considered a fight. Fang Xian was killed and the Turtle Ancestor surrendered. Fu Tian did not even have the courage to fight. Yi Qinghan quickly led the Crazy Manor back to the northern Xiong Immortal Kingdom. At this moment, no one expected another sage to make a move. It was none other than the Star Profound Sage. The Star Profound Sage's target was not Yin Emperor or Ultimate Saint Thieving Heaven, but Tsongmu Sage. Roar! Xing Xian's attack was fast and without any warning. It was a complete sneak attack. Taking advantage of the moment when Yen Emperor pushed Song Mu Sage back, he slashed his sword and shattered Song Mu Sage's body. Even his soul could not escape. It was a devastating blow. Puff! Adat Song Mu Sage looked at the star-profound sage who was holding him in dissatisfaction. His mouth was full of blood and he could not even let both sides suffer. You can't see the situation clearly. You deserve to die. Xing Xian bent down and whispered. Crack, crack, crack. The sage sword stirred in Song Mu Sage's body, taking away his remaining life force. Xing Xian then slammed his palm on Song Mu Sage's head. One. Boom. Song Mu Sage's soul was extinguished on the spot. His hands went limp and his eyes closed. His consciousness fell into darkness. Yen Emperor was also shocked. Xing Xian Sage had been hiding in the depths of the void for a long time. Yen Emperor had always known that Xing Xian Sage was hiding in the dark. Therefore, he had always held back and did not dare to kill Song Mu. He did not expect Xing Xian Sage to be hiding in the dark. He also did not expect Xing Xian to suddenly kill Song Mu. At this moment, Yi Qinghan was leading a large group of experts back. The army below was fighting. The two sages, Song Mu and Tianzong, were surrounded by the chess saint. They were trapped in a whirlpool formation and were completely surrounded. The upper echelons of the crazy manor were charging, killing anyone they saw. Blood flowed like rivers and corpses piled up like mountains. Yi Qinghan happened to see the Xing Xian sage make his move, and he frowned. He had yet to arrive at the battlefield, and the Xing Xian sage definitely did not notice his arrival. Yet, the Xing Xian sage had attacked the Song Mu sage at such a critical moment. Interesting. Now I don't even know what to do with you. Yi Qinghan muttered to himself. With a wave of his hand, he sent the last batch of experts from the insane mansion to the battlefield. Then, he soared into the sky and arrived beside the Flame Emperor. Who is the other sage? Where are they now? Yi Qinghan asked in a deep voice. It's the Celestial Sage. The Celestial Sage was lured away by the Celestial Sage in the depths of the Milky Way. The Yen Emperor calmly wiped off the Celestial Sage's blood on the mortal Emperor's sword and sheathed it. Yi Qinghan smiled and looked at the star-profound sage. He cupped his fists and said, "This he owes Senior another big favor. I am extremely grateful. If there is a chance in the future, I will definitely repay you generously." Xing Xian smiled faintly and said majestically, "Since I have helped you from the beginning, I will help you to the end. It is not my style to give up halfway. You can go and find the heaven-blessed sage. Leave this to the army. Our army has already arrived." Boom boom boom. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. At this moment, countless armies came from the north. They swept through everything and cut off the retreat of the Song Mu sacred ground and the heaven-blessed sacred ground. Yi Qinghan left and went straight to the depths of the Milky Way. At this moment, the Celestial Sage was constantly jumping through space and mocking the Celestial Sage. "Ha! A sage is only SO. I gave you 10% of my speed and you can't even catch my sleeve. What a loser!" The Celestial Sage laughed. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The Celestial Sage fled as he fled. His fighting style was similar to Sovereign Ye's. He never fought the enemy head-on. He was only in charge of escaping. The direction of his escape was under his control. He kept approaching the chaotic heavenly domain of a secondary universe of the ancient immortal subworld and rushed into the Seeking Heaven domain. Once he entered the Seeking Heaven domain, no one could stop the Celestial Sage's footsteps. His figure flashed and disappeared. Yi Qinghan chased after them. Although he could no longer see the two's figures, the aftermath of their explosive power did not disappear. The aura was still there. The order of the universe was completely suppressed by Yi Qinghan. He crossed a secondary universe in an instant and chased into the Seeking Heaven domain. At this moment, the Celestial Sage was circling around with the Celestial Sage. Terrifying chaotic energy rolled like a flood, destroying everything. Many adventurers were affected and died on the spot. The Celestial Sage roared, "Thieving heaven, if I don't kill you today, I'll change my surname to yours." "Ha, good son, let me hear you call me father." The Celestial Sage's figure flashed. 9 afterimages appeared and stood in 9 directions. It was impossible to tell which one was real and which one was fake. Audit the celestial sage roared and shattered the chaos with his sword. He destroyed the 8 afterimages, but the real body disappeared. The terrifying fluctuation in the seeking heaven domain alarmed Yi Qinghan. Thud thud thud. Yi Qinghan had a strange expression. As long as he killed Celestial Sage, only half of the secondary universe's sages would be left. Qian Yixue was on his side. As for Xian Xing and Turtle Ancestor, those 2 fence-sitters were not a concern. As for Zi Jin and Xiaoyu Sage, it didn't matter who they stood on. The heavens are truly helping me. After destroying these 3 virtuous paragons, the chance of those virtuous paragons coming out is next to none. Yi Qinghan murmured to himself as his figure flashed and appeared outside of the battlefield. Ha, Mansion Lord Yi, you didn't disappoint me. You killed Fang Xian and the others so quickly. If you didn't come, I would have lost a son. The Celestial Sage grinned. What? The Celestial Sage flipped his wrist. The Celestial Sage sword was incomparably cold. He stared at Yi Qinghan with shock. Turtle Ancestor, Shrouding Heaven, and Fang Xian joined forces. No matter how bad they were, they shouldn't have been defeated so quickly. Fang Xian, Shrouding Heaven, and Turtle Ancestor are all dead? The Celestial Sage angrily roared. Yi Qinghan held the blade in his left hand and rubbed his nose with his right. He smiled and said, Fang Xian is dead. Turtle Ancestor turned traitor. Shrouding Heaven surrendered and was captured. Song Mu was killed by Senior Xian Xing. You are the only one left who is still struggling. The army you brought, I'm afraid it has been completely annihilated. Impossible. Hiss hiss hiss. The Celestial Sage sucked in a breath of cold air and unwillingly roared. Yi Qinghan faintly smiled and flipped his hand. Fang Xian and Shrouding Heaven's tokens appeared in his hand. This was a symbol of status. Seeing the tokens was the same as seeing the sages. As long as they weren't dead or captured, their tokens wouldn't appear in the hands of the enemy. Yi Qinghan calmly reminded, once the sages die, their merits and refined sovereign's essence will scatter with the wind. If you want to die, you can resist. If you don't want to die, then kneel and surrender. I will reluctantly accept. This will prevent the world from falling into chaos and the subworlds from fighting each other. Surrender? The Celestial Sage was arrogant his entire life. How could he surrender without using his sword? The Celestial Sage's aura was vast and mighty. His sword rainbow pierced through the origin universe. He pointed his sword at Yi Qinghan and coldly said, I want to meet a rising star like you. Chapter 3052. The sword pierced through Qiu Tian domain. The chaos was vast and mighty, like a torrent rolling and stormy waves crashing into Qiu Tian domain. The moment Heaven-blessed Sage attacked, one would know how glorious his life was. Boom. Yi Qinghan was even more powerful. He had already prepared for this attack and was in perfect condition, mobilizing the power of the primal universe. This attack was enough. Heaven-blessed Sage's combat skills were higher than Fang Xian's, but his combat power was not as good as Fang Xian's. The entire Qiu Tian domain seemed to be lifted. Endless power crushed order, dharma, and logos. As the sword slashed down, it split Qiu Tian domain. A man-sized gully appeared in the sky above Qiu Tian domain, swallowing everything and absorbing Heaven-blessed Sage's body. Heaven-blessed Sage was about to stab forward, but halfway through he was sucked in by the gully and lost control of his body. His body shattered the void and broke free from the shackles. Bang! The moment Heaven-blessed Sage broke free, Yi Qinghan's sword that could split the universe slashed in front of Heaven-blessed Sage. Heaven-blessed sword met the attack head-on, containing the dharma and logos of the universe, order, and sage power. This sword represented his peak. Boom! Heavy madness broke all order and slashed on Heaven-blessed Sage's sword. A crack appeared on the blade, and the sword was bent. It slammed into Heaven-blessed Sage's chest and cut his shoulder. Poochie! The sword was invincible. It cut through Heaven-blessed Sage's defense and tore his robe. Instantly, blood stained heavy madness. Crack! Heaven-blessed sage wanted to stand still, but his body could not withstand such a huge impact. His arm and leg bones were broken, and his spine was broken from the center. He had no chance to resist at all. Heaven-blessed sage's face was distorted by the heart-wrenching pain. He screamed in pain. When his leg bones could not take it, his body was thrown into the distance like a kite with a broken string. Once a rising star rises, you won't even have a chance to resist. Boom! Yi Qinghan's sword slashed across Heaven-blessed sage's chest and landed on the origin of chaos. He kicked, driving the power of the 5 elements into Heaven-blessed sage's body. Heaven-blessed sage spurted blood and flew backward, smashing into skies seeking domain of another secondary universe. The cough. Heaven-bestowed sage's mouth was full of blood. His internal organs were all spilled out. The order in his body was completely destroyed. The chaotic power destroyed his original order. He roared in pain. "You are not a sage. You have touched the threshold of virtuous paragon." Boom! The heaven-blessed sage's legs were powerless. He held his sword and knelt in the heaven domain at the beginning of chaos. His legs were trembling and he couldn't even stand up. It's too late for you to realize this. From the moment you decided to follow Fang Xian to attack Kuang Fu, it meant that your path to becoming a sage was cut off. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed fiercely as he stepped in front of Heaven-blessed Sage. He waved his saber and placed it on the sage's neck. He coldly said, "There was a path to heaven but you didn't take it. Kuang Fu isn't a place for anyone to attack." Heaven-blessed Sage smiled miserably. This defeat was too miserable. There was no hope of victory. Even though Yi Qinghan could only use this move, only a virtuous paragon would be able to stop him. Even if a virtuous paragon could kill Yi Qinghan with a wave of their hand. "I didn't think I would lose." Heaven-blessed Sage mournfully howled. His hands couldn't even hold onto his sword. In the face of absolute power, all the profundities of a sage couldn't withstand a single blow. Yi Qinghan groaned and stepped on Heaven-blessed Sage's chest. He coldly said, "Instead of being a sage, you chose to become a ghost under my blade. I let you leave alive the first time, but you dare to come a second time? You should be prepared to die." Boom! Puchi! Yi Qinghan fiercely stomped down and swung his blade. Along with the universe's order and ruler's power, he destroyed Heaven-blessed Sage's life force. A sage of a generation died on the spot. However, at this moment, Extreme Saint Thieving Heaven's figure flashed. He waved his hand and controlled the surrounding space, wrapping up Heaven-blessed Sage's corpse. "You're really wasteful. A sage is dead, but the refined ruler's energy in his body won't disappear for no reason." Nonsense. Extreme Saint Thieving Heaven controlled the corpse and forcefully gathered the escaping ruler's energy into a ball. He waved his hand and kept it in his palm. "Ha! The position of sage is within my grasp." Extreme Saint Thieving Heaven was ecstatic, as if he was afraid that the ruler's energy would escape. Yi Qinghan frowned and muttered, "That works too? Then wouldn't it be a waste if I just killed Fang Xian and threw his corpse away?" "Idiot! The ruler's energy source won't disappear for no reason. You've lived for so long and yet you don't even know this. You're clearly a rookie who doesn't pay attention to details." Extreme Saint Thieving Heaven shook his head in dissatisfaction. "You've lost 2 sages. Sangmu Sage and Fang Xian's corpses were not used in time. Now that the ruler's energy source was scattered in the heaven-seeking domain, without Little White Cloud's protection, the energy source was already scattered and could not be gathered again." Yi Qinghan grimaced in regret. Sigh, Yi Qinghan sighed softly and snorted, "Since you knew, why didn't you remind me?" Extreme Saint Thieving Heaven raised his white brows and retorted, "How would I know you were so stupid? I thought that the Manor Lord of Crazy Manor Immortal Kingdom would be very smart, but in the end you're an idiot." Yi Qinghan was speechless, not knowing how to refute. At this moment, Yi Qinghan secretly laughed. With a flip of his wrist, the ruler's energy source was quickly hidden in his chest. Even Yi Qinghan didn't notice it. Extreme Saint Thieving Heaven glanced at the ruler's energy source in Yi Qinghan's palm. Even if it was just a glimpse, it was enough. Because he dreamed of obtaining the ruler's energy source, he was especially sensitive to it. Fuck. This is the first time I've seen such a divine pet play with its master in the palm of its hand. Extreme Saint Thieving Heaven couldn't help but wave his hand and roll his eyes. Yi Qinghan was stunned, then turned to look at Yi Qinghan, who suddenly appeared. He stared at Yi Qinghan and said, "You got it? Why didn't you tell me?" Yi Qinghan was instantly enraged. He originally wanted to show off to Extreme Saint Thieving Heaven, but who knew that Extreme Saint Thieving Heaven would betray him? "You old thing!" Yi Qinghan roared at Extreme Saint Thieving Heaven. "How did I offend you? I was just showing off. Did you have to betray me?" Extreme Saint Thieving Heaven grinned and laughed. He wasn't afraid of Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan stared at Yi Qinghan and gestured with his hand. "Take it out and let me see." Yi Qinghan curled his lips and said with a pout, "I'm the ruler's energy source. Naturally, I can feel the overflowing ruler's energy source. Just now, I wanted to secretly steal the ruler's energy source from Tianzong's body. Who knew that this old thing would be one step ahead of me?" Yi Qinghan frowned and asked, "What do you want the ruler's energy source for?" "I've gathered all the ruler's energy sources in the world. I'm a ruler, and a conscious one at that. I can control all order and create a new order. Of course, I want more ruler's energy source." Yi Qinghan argued. "Are you sure?" Yi Qinghan was shocked and immediately asked. Yi Qinghan shrugged and whispered, "I'm not sure. I'll give it a try." Chapter 3053. Yi Qinghan looked at Sovereign Ye's wretched expression and didn't know what to say. Hiding the ruler's origin source without knowing anything. If it was confirmed, he would probably throw the world into chaos and have all the sages besiege the crazy mansion to destroy it. Yi Qinghan shrugged and said, "Forget it. If the ruler's origin source can be gathered together, then Ancestor Yuzun wouldn't have separated it back then. Just give it to Brother Monkey King, Qingyu, Mu Zhuang, or Old Smoke. You can give it to whoever you like, I won't ask." Sovereign Yi murmured, "Right, why didn't I think of this? If the ruler's origin source can be gathered together, then why would virtuous Paragon Yuzun go for something far away?" Yi Qinghan shook his head and returned to the secondary realm before jumping through the secondary universe. Ultimate Saint Thieving Heaven grinned along the way. He finally obtained the ruler's origin source. After becoming a sage, he would be invincible under the virtuous Paragon realm. Flame Emperor and Yi Qinghan wouldn't be able to threaten his safety. After all, he was simply too fast. Sovereign Yi, on the other hand, was very dissatisfied with Ultimate Saint Thieving Heaven. "Old geezer, you still don't have a son or grandson, right?" Sovereign Yi snorted. Ultimate Saint Thieving Heaven was startled and asked, "How do you know?" "Because you're too wicked." Sovereign Yi sneered, "You're doomed to have no descendants. If your father knew, he would crawl out of his grave and break your legs. Anyway, there's no point in keeping you alive." Extreme Saint Thieving Heaven's eyes widened as he glared at Sovereign Yi. He rolled up his sleeves and was about to teach Sovereign Yi a lesson. Supreme Yi immediately rolled up his sleeves and raised the corners of his mouth arrogantly. He said in disdain, "You don't seem to be a sage yet. Why don't you give it a try? I'll let you see how powerful this Supreme Yi is." "I won't bicker with you. A gentleman uses his mouth and not his fists. Let's use actions to prove it. If I have a son in 2 years, won't that prove that you're even more wicked?" Ultimate Saint Thieving Heaven immediately went soft. He could only use soft power to prove Sovereign Ye's words wrong. Supreme Yi sneered. "It's possible that you'll become a father 2 months after you get married. I'll make a bet with you. If I have a son, you'll give me your sovereign energy source. If I lose, then I'll be wicked." Extreme Saint Thieving Heaven said confidently. Sovereign Yi looked at Ultimate Saint Thieving Heaven as if he was looking at an idiot. He bared his teeth and replied, "I was already tired of this kind of verbal abuse when I was 3 years old. What does it have to do with me whether you're immoral or not? It's not like I'm going to die without descendants. I have a son, and I'm going to have a grandson soon." Sigh, unlike some people, it doesn't matter if they have 3 legs or not. Supreme Sovereign Yi snorted proudly and hurriedly chased after Yi Qinghan. Thieving Heaven Extreme Saint was so angry that he even gave up on becoming a saint. I'll prove it to you. If you don't have a son in 2 years, I'll treat you as my son. Extreme Saint Thieving Heaven chased after him and roared. Alright, but Supreme Sovereign Yi did not pay attention for a moment and immediately fell for it. Yi Qinghan was about to reach northern Xiong immortal country. Looking at these two wretched people, if he didn't know better, he would have thought that they were father and son. At this moment, the northern Xiong immortal kingdom had gathered 80% of the Kuang Manor's forces. Songmu Sage and Tianzong Sage's forces were surrounded, and the experts sent by the Star Profound Sage cut off their escape route. Corpses and bones piled up like mountains, and blood flowed like rivers. The northern part of northern Xiong immortal country became a land of death, and the atmosphere was gloomy. However, the royal family of northern Xiong immortal country was especially excited. Northern Xiong immortal country also participated in this battle and became famous. Although their battle strength was not much from today onwards, other than Crazy Manor, no one dared to provoke northern Xiong immortal country. Xing Xian and Turtle Ancestor did not leave. They were waiting for Yi Qinghan to return. Yi Qinghan distorted the void and appeared outside northern Xiong City. The army was still gathering and could counterattack at any time to completely take down the sacred grounds. Looking at the tired army of Crazy Manor, Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and shook his head. The war is over. From today onwards, it's time to enjoy life. The army was silent for a moment before they let out a thunderous roar. The army roared, and the war flag waved in the wind. Yi Qinghan exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and said in a deep voice, "From today onwards, you can go anywhere in the 3 subworlds. No matter where you go, the Crazed Manor will be your backer. Anyone who dares to attack the Crazed Manor for no reason will be killed no matter how far away they are." Crazy Manor! Crazy Manor! The army was incomparably excited. Now that the war had ended, the remaining sages would definitely not be enemies with Crazy Manor. Everyone from Crazy Manor is dismissed today. You can choose to stay in the Celestial Nation and be rewarded with land and nobility. You can also choose to leave the Celestial Nation and find the life you want the most. Everyone must wear Crazy Manor's special waist token. No one can copy it. Anyone who sees Crazy Manor's waist token can trust you unconditionally. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and said confidently, "Crazy Manor's people, you will always enjoy the protection of Crazy Manor." The waist token can be passed down to the direct descendants. Crazy Manor's heaven-conquering camp had been fighting for countless years. Now, they were finally able to enjoy extraordinary treatment. Even if a sage saw Crazy Manor's waist token, they would not dare to kill or humiliate them. Crazy Manor was a supreme power. Crazy Manor's people had supreme glory. They had been here, fought, and were always glorious. The brothers who died today will be rewarded with land and inheritance. Yi Qinghan announced a series of orders. The heroes were extremely excited. You all possess extraordinary statuses. However, your words and actions represent the glory of the Kuang Mansion. You are not allowed to bully the weak, nor are you allowed to sully the name of the Kuang Mansion. If anyone sees anyone impersonating the Kuang Mansion and committing crimes outside, you are allowed to eliminate them immediately, Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice. Yes. Crazy Manor's army had persevered for so many years, establishing an inviolable glory for Crazy Manor. Anyone who dared to destroy this glory would die. Yi Qinghan's last sentence was enough to make Crazy Manor stand proudly for countless years. Dismissed. Boom. The tens of millions of Crazy Manor's soldiers bowed in unison, then cupped their fists and said, "Manor Lord, this lowly one will take his leave." The tens of millions of soldiers dispersed. Crazy Manor was in their hearts, and they were Crazy Manor's people no matter where they were. Now that the war was over, it was time for them to find their own lives. Many Crazy Manor's people migrated to find the life they wanted. Some chose to stay in Crazy Manor Immortal Kingdom, and all of them were given titles, becoming overlords. At this moment, Xing Xian and Turtle Ancestor didn't expect Yi Qinghan to be so bold, directly disbanding the tens of millions of Crazy Manor soldiers. This force could be taken away by anyone, and they could sweep through a major subworld. Yi Qinghan didn't think so. Crazy Manor had stabilized and controlled the overall situation of the three major subworlds. There was no need to gather Crazy Manor together. They had their own ideals and goals. It was time for them to retire and live the life they wanted the most without any danger. Who would dare to bully Crazy Manor in this world? Chapter 3054. The disbandment of the insane manor was so bold that the remaining sages felt their hair stand on end. They ordered that wherever the insane manor appeared, no one should make things difficult for them. In fact, they had to befriend them because no one dared to offend the insane manor. The 20 million heaven-conquering battalion and the 8 million private soldiers had fought for countless years. Some of them had even followed Yi Qinghan since they were young. They had stayed in the barracks all year round for the sake of their beliefs and the glory of the insane manor. Their combat strength was not as good as the older generation of the insane manor, but their persistence had never lost to anyone. When each of them left, their faces were filled with unswerving determination. Their handsome faces were as sharp as knives, and who knew how many scars were hidden on their bodies? What? Bang! When they passed by Yi Qinghan, they couldn't help but salute him. Yi Qinghan had never been stingy. From the beginning until now, he had never stopped saluting back. Yi Qinghan's eyes were red as he said, "One day, when the world is peaceful, I will summon all of you back for a drink. Manor Lord, we will wait for your summons. No matter where we are, we will rush back as fast as we can." Countless soldiers replied with the most resolute tone. "Protect your lives. Remember, the insane manor immortal kingdom will always be your strongest backing. Everyone must carry a distress arrow. Once someone is attacked, fire it as fast as you can. The people of the insane manor immortal kingdom will come to your aid as fast as they can," Yi Qinghan said seriously. The soldiers looked at Yi Qinghan's instructions, and their eyes turned red. This manor lord looked young, but he was like a brother and a father. He put their safety first. The star sage and turtle ancestor sage sighed. They had lived for so many years, but this was the first time they had seen such a force. It was so concentrated that it made their teeth ache. Da-da, boom boom boom. The army quickly retreated. Less than 10% of the insane manor immortal kingdom's people were left. Perhaps they were tired and wanted to rest in the insane manor immortal kingdom. They wanted to find a peerless beauty and get drunk on her lap. The ancient massacre god didn't leave. Not a single one of them left. Although they were disbanded, they were still in the crazy mansion immortal kingdom. Some returned to their minor planes, some went into seclusion in the mountains, and some became marquises. Yi Qinghan watched them leave one by one. He wished them well and prayed for their safety. The older generation of Kuang Manor was still the same familiar faces, but there were fewer of them now. Yi Qinghan was helpless because he couldn't revive them. But the Flame Emperor walked forward and patted Yi Qinghan's shoulder. He smiled and said, "What's the plan for the final step?" The Flaming Emperor stood outside the hall and looked at the insane manor's experts. He pursed his lips and smiled. However, as he smiled, 2 streams of tears flowed out of his eyes. If the Yen clan was destroyed, he would drink with the 36 elders and dance with the 9-colored Brahma heart. Unfortunately, there was no one to share it with. The Flaming Emperor retreated. He rode the scarlet flames with his sword and returned to Human Emperor Peak. In the main Imperial Hall, Mu Zhuang, Gu Qingyu, Qitian Monkey King, Green Lotus Sword Immortal, and a dozen others surrounded a large table. Each of them held a jar of wine and looked down at the 3 energy sources in Supreme Ye's hands. "Boss, count me in." At this moment, the colorful snake transformed into Elegant Yi and appeared in the hall with a sinister look. "Alright, then I'll be the judge. Each person has 10 jars of wine, and the person who drinks the first 3 jars will obtain a ball of energy. If all 10 jars of wine are still standing, then the person who drinks the first 3 jars will win." Yi Qinghan's playfulness was aroused. He sat up straight and clapped his hands. "Ready for 2, 3. Begin." Whoosh. In the main Imperial Hall, a dozen experts tore open the seals on the jars of wine. This was an immortal wine brewed by Yi Qinghan alone. It was very strong. Ordinary progenitors wouldn't be able to withstand a jar of it. Moreover, ancestral power was prohibited. Basically, not many people could withstand a jar. Gulp, gulp. Everyone hugged the jars of wine and drank wildly. Bang bang bang. Supreme Yi slammed the table and shouted, "Come on, come on. Let me tell you a joke." From the first 3 drunkards. Supreme Yi had a wretched expression. He was about to interrupt them when Yi Qinghan interrupted him with a slap. "Shut up." Yi Qinghan snorted. Supreme Yi could only shrug and sit down helplessly. The first jar of wine was quickly finished, but no one gave up. After the second jar, Zhou Shuguang was the first to lose. He spat out the second jar. Chapter 3055. The crazed manor was partying unscrupulously. Now that the Flame Emperor had retreated, Zhang Daoling watched in the dark. An unprecedented feeling welled up in his heart. The crazed manor was like a big family. There were no restrictions or hierarchy. Everyone could fearlessly sacrifice themselves for each other. Even if they encountered something like the sovereign's origin, they would fight over it. If it were any other force, they would have already fought. In the end, both sides would suffer. Zhou Shuguang was the first to lose. Not only was he not sad, he even laughed self-deprecatingly. Looking at the others drinking, the smile in his eyes was especially pure. After the third jar, Emoli lost. So did Si Wuxia. However, they did not have too many distracting thoughts. A loss was a loss. They would not have any resentment. Yi Qinghan grinned. He clapped his hands and looked at Green Lotus Sword Fairy. He did not expect her to last until the fourth jar. Gulping. The wine jars were constantly broken. Then, Li Feng vomited. Without ancestral power, he really could not bear the impact of this strong wine. You guys are really wine buckets. Zhou Shuguang was speechless. He could not even drink one jar, but the others drank so much. Especially the female Green Lotus Sword Fairy, it made him blush with shame. Shirgu had fallen. Yan Yunbei had fallen, Hualing Tian fell. Boom, boom, bang, bang. Su Zhan also fell down. Supreme Being Yi slammed the table gloatingly as he looked at them falling down one by one. He laughed so hard that he was convulsing. Green Lotus Sword Fairy lasted until the 7th jar. She could not hold on any longer. Tears came out of her eyes. She sat on the ground and mobilized her ancestral power to refine the strong wine. Yi Qinghan gently patted Green Lotus Sword Fairy's back. He was full of smiles. Jiang Jingtian, Mu Zhuang, Gu Qingyu, Qitian Monkey King, Li Peiza, Yi Chenxing, Lin Wutian, Yi Xiaosa, and Hualing Tian were still drinking. The wine in the jars was quickly decreasing. The remaining 9 people picked up the 9th jar almost at the same time. However, they were all on the verge of collapsing. Bang! Halfway through the 9th jar, Mu Zhuang fell to the ground. However, after 3 breaths, Lin Wutian fell to the ground in an even more confident manner. Not only did Supremacy Yi not feel any heartache, he even mocked him even more. He drank 9 jars of strong wine for nothing. Bang! Hualing Tian fell to the ground. His face was red, and he was unconscious. There were still 6 people left in the 10th jar of strong liquor. 2 more would be enough. This group of wine buckets, let's see who is the unluckiest one to lose after drinking 10 jars of wine, Jian Chenxue said with a smile. I bet that Jing Tian, Monkey King, and Elegant Yi will win. Emperor Yi raised his small hand and shouted, Come, 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 place your bets. More than 10 servants were ganging up on a family of 7 or 8 people. There were 2 old people in the family, who should be husband and wife. There were also 2 middle-aged men and women, who were also husband and wife. The remaining people were a 7 or 8-year-old boy and 2 15 or 16-year-old girls. They were all pretty. The 2 old people and the middle-aged couple were beaten to the ground, crying and begging for mercy. However, the young man with a face full of hostility showed no mercy, causing his subordinates to continue beating them. Even the 7 or 8-year-old child was not spared. The 2 young girls' clothes were almost torn, and they were in a sorry state. Wang Zhe frowned. He stepped forward and sent a servant flying with a kick. He scolded angrily, a group of young and strong cultivators attacking the elderly and children. Where is the decency? The young master glared at Wang Zhe with dissatisfaction and coldly snorted, "Little bastard, are you blind? Don't you know that this young master is the young city lord? These dogs not only offended this young master, but also stole my money. You actually dare to make trouble in this young master's territory. Do you want to be a hero and save the beauty? I think you're tired of living." Wang Zhe coldly snorted. He looked down at the family that had been beaten to the ground and the overturned luggage on the ground. No matter how he looked at it, it did not look like a thief. Instead, it was a bit like this young man coveted the beauty of the young girl and wanted to take the opportunity to kidnap her. Young hero. Help, we didn't steal his money. We were just passing by. I didn't expect this young city lord to take a fancy to my daughter. He failed to strike up a conversation and instead became angry out of shame. The middle-aged man's cultivation was average. He was knocked down after a few moves. His body was bleeding, but he still grabbed Wang Zhe, treating him as a life-saving straw. However, before he finished speaking, he was interrupted by one of the young city lord's guards and directly kicked to the ground. Wang Zhe exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. He grabbed the spear with his right hand and slowly pulled it out. The coldness and battle intent in his eyes made people shudder. This was a soldier of the crazed manner. Even a small centurion had the might of a main city's commander, or even stronger. Nonsense. If you were in my celestial nation, no matter who you are, you would have been executed long ago. Wang Zhe coldly reprimanded. Ah. The young city lord laughed sinisterly and boasted shamelessly, "Unfortunately, this is my territory. I call the shots. Men, capture this traitor. Capture him alive and you will be rewarded." The young city lord waved his hand and directly ordered. What? There were many people outside the city who were watching the show. They immediately scattered in all directions, but a few city guards surrounded them. Chapter 3057. Wang Zhe held his spear and charged towards the city gate. He was going to enforce justice in the name of the crazy manor. Fellow Taoist, there's no need to go overboard. You're using the name of the crazy manor to cause trouble in my Suncreed city? This isn't the territory of the crazy manor. As the saying goes, even a powerful dragon can't suppress a snake in its own territory. You've stretched your hand too far, the lieutenant reminded coldly. However, the young city lord wasn't willing to give up. He growled, "Marshal Tian, help me kill him. He's just a small soldier from the crazy manor. Let's see if the crazy manor dares to mobilize so many people for him and come to my Purple Sun subrealm to fight against my Suncreed city. Besides, it's not like we don't have anyone behind us." The killing intent of the commander-in-chief Tian disappeared in a flash. In the end, he did not dare to go for the kill. After all, the crazed manor was famous. They had made a name for themselves in one battle and had killed several saints. A small Suncreed city was nothing in the eyes of the crazed manor. Young city lord, there's no need to offend the crazy manor for him. If there's no other way, why don't we just bear with it and apologize? The young city lord was instantly enraged and roared, "Are you one of the city guards of Suncreed city? If you don't have the ability, I'll get my father to take you down. You're just a lieutenant. You're my dog. How dare you apologize to a lowly soldier for me? Are you drunk?" Marshal Tian was a peak expert of the Taigu Emperor. He was on the verge of becoming a half-martial ancestor. He didn't expect to be called a dog by a playboy. However, in order to protect his position, he could only bear with it. "Are you going to kill this person or not?" The young city lord's face was gloomy. He stared at Wang Zhe with vicious eyes. As the saying goes, a newborn calf isn't afraid of a tiger. He didn't care about the reputation of the crazy manor. Marshal Tian took a step back. He took out a bugle horn and blew it. The sound of the bugle horn resounded through the sky. Woo! In an instant, the wind howled. Dark clouds covered the sky. The army in the city was mobilized. Even the commander of the city was alarmed. He was a half-martial ancestor expert. Wang Zhe snorted coldly. His left hand gripped the SOS arrow at his waist as he glanced at the family he had just saved. The middle-aged man's face changed. He quickly said, "Lord, you should leave first. If possible, take my wife and parents with you. I'll cover you." Wang Zian was filled with pride. The Kuang Manor would only fight, not retreat. Whoosh-boom. Kuang Fu's distress arrow shot out of the clouds and exploded in the sky, tearing apart the dark clouds. A single firework represented countless meanings, shocking the heavens and earth and making ghosts and gods weep. In that instant, true experts felt their hair stand on end. Looking at the sky above Suncreed City, they couldn't help but shake their heads and sigh. Which blind fool offended the Kuang Manor? The battle has just ended, yet he's already stirring up trouble. I'm afraid only a hedonistic son would dare to do such a thing. An ancestor realm expert was truly afraid of the Kuang Manor. They didn't even have the courage to resist. Only such a mischievous person would dare to offend the Kuang Manor. At this moment, the army of 30 million was everywhere. They were scattered throughout the 3 subworlds, and each of the secondary universes had at least tens of thousands of them. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Bang. At this moment, the sky above the secondary universe was filled with fireworks. 1 spread to 10, 10 spread to 100, and the experts who received the news did not hesitate at all and rushed to Suncreed City. The individual soldiers of the Kuang Mansion were not weak. They were as fast as lightning, and they were in combat mode as they flew. Their armor shone with cold light, and their spears tore through the void. Outside Suncreed City, the commander hesitated for a moment because he discovered that Wang Zhe was a member of the Kuang Manor. However, he soon lost the advantage because a captain of the Kuang Manor had arrived. Shoo! 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 In less than a moment, more than 300 experts came from all directions of Suncreed City. Assemble! With a wave of Wan Fu's spear, the 300 Kuang Mansion experts quickly formed a large group. Despite the large difference in numbers, the Marshal and Commander-in-Chief Tian were both stunned. Their hands trembled, and they didn't dare to order the army to charge at the 300 Kuang Mansion experts. The army of Suncreed City didn't charge, but that didn't mean that the people of the Kuang Manor wouldn't charge. 300 people against a main city's army had at least 700 to 800,000 people. However, the defending army kept retreating until they reached the main city, relying on the city walls to defend. Wang Zhe quickly explained the reason for the matter, and even told him that the young city lord wanted to kill him. The captain was a middle-aged man, and he was extremely protective. The young city lord was already despicable enough to bully people, but he still dared to order the killing of the people of the Kuang Manor. Do you think the name of the Kuang Manor is a joke? The captain pointed at the commander on the city walls and said coldly, "Tell your city lord to kneel when he goes out, or don't blame us for being ruthless. Tell the city lord to kneel when he receives the order." The city lord of Suncreed City was an ancestor, but it was because he was an ancestor that he understood how powerful the Kuang Manor was. If he dared to kill one of these 300 people, he could forget about keeping the city. Even the sage wouldn't be able to protect him. His cultivation base was already enough to reach the ascendant stage, but in front of these people he didn't put on any airs. He knelt down on one knee and said respectfully, "Qing Han greets Master Nine Nether, Lord Fazhen, Xian Tao and the other seniors." The skin on Nine Nether's group's faces had lost its rosy color. They were all people who were about to die, but when they saw Yi Qinghan, Emperor Yi and the rest, they were still smiling like flowers. They had seen through life and death, and the only thing that could make them happy was that Yi Qinghan and the rest had returned to see them. "Kid, have you completed your goal?" Nine Nether smiled and said, "If you've completed it, then don't leave. Accompany us old fellows for the last part of our journey." Yi Qinghan raised his head and knelt down on one knee in front of Nine Nether and the rest. He was inexplicably excited. This kind of sacrifice could make these elders happy, but it was also the happiest thing for him. "Master, I'm just half a step away. But don't worry, I'll leave Huang and Shaoxing behind. They will take care of your meals and lodging." I'll be able to complete the last half step very soon. When the time comes, I won't go anywhere and will accompany all of you every day." Yi Qinghan smiled and said, "Finally, we can see the end. You've worked so hard for so long, it's time for you to rest. When do you plan to leave this time?" Lord Fazhen looked at Yi Qinghan and asked calmly. Yi Qinghan wanted to say that he would leave tomorrow, but he didn't want to hurt these elders' feelings. "Where's Wu Tian?" Lord Fazhen saw through Yi Qinghan's thoughts and changed the topic. Yi Qinghan immediately replied, "He should be here soon. He made a trip to the ancestral town." Lord Fazhen had forcefully accepted Lin Wutian as his disciple, but his feelings for Lin Wutian were real. Lord Fazhen smiled and looked up at the sky. In this life, he was able to accept Lin Wutian as his disciple and provide for Yi Qinghan's retirement. This life was worth it. After a while, Lin Wutian appeared on Owl War Star and knelt beside the elders respectfully. Everyone in the crazed manor was grateful for their respect for their elders. If these elders hadn't supported them when they were young and weak, the crazed manor would have collapsed in the small plain. Everyone who found their clansmen were reminiscing about the past. The scenes of the past were like yesterday. However, there was one place that was especially harmonious. Zixin, someone from the mythical dimension. After falling out with his elder brother, the Z family completely retreated from the world and hid in the Xanadu. They avoided Yi Qinghan's calamity of devouring countless living beings. Zixian's cultivation level couldn't keep up with the rest of the Z family, but he had been silently supporting them from the back. She had a vegetable garden by herself. It was simple and boring, but she had gotten used to it and enjoyed it. "Your Highness, I've reached the final step, so I came to see you." Yi Qinghan bowed slightly. Even though Gu Jiutian's cultivation was far behind him, Yi Qinghan was still indebted to her. Gu Jiutian was, after all, the first person Yi Qinghan helped after he appeared in the immortal world. Gu Jiutian's skin was fair and smooth. Even after being exposed to the sun and wind, she was still as beautiful as ever. With a smile on her face, she prepared a table of ordinary dishes. "It's been a long time since I ate with someone. Eat with me," said Gu Jiutian with a smile. Yi Qinghan didn't refuse and sat across Gu Jiutian. Between them, there was only the purest form of friendship. There were no other thoughts. "It's the last step. Be careful. I've watched you grow all this time. I didn't expect you to reach this step today." Gu Jiutian sighed softly. A melody like the sound of nature reverberated in the valley, exceptionally crisp. Yi Qinghan nodded and replied, "Yes. Thank you, Your Highness." The two of them drank a few cups of wine and ate a simple meal before Yi Qinghan bowed and left. On the mountaintop, Yi Qinghan looked at the white-robed Gu Jiutian for a long time before he finally turned and left. Then Yi Qinghan summoned Lu Feng and Chu Shijunxian. "I'll fulfill the promise I made to you. Even if it's not the immortal world, other secondary universes will do." Yi Qinghan looked at the two and said with a sigh. The two were already at the limit of the ancestor realm. Yen Yu and primordial Yin Yang had set up such a shocking plan, but it was all for the two of them. Lu Feng had completely submitted at this moment. He replied respectfully, "Mansion Lord, there's no problem in letting me be the lord of a city. Let the promise from back then scatter with the wind. After fighting for so long and looking at the brotherhood of the Kuang Mansion, I realized that what I pursued didn't make me happy at all." Chu Shijunxian sighed softly. "Now I understand why Father set up a trap to protect your growth. Mansion Lord Yi, I was wrong. If I had been smarter back then, Father wouldn't have died." Chu Shijunxian was Chu Jun. No matter who was in charge, they both understood that it was lonely at the top. If they stood in Yi Qinghan's shoes, they might not have handled things so perfectly. Yi Qinghan smiled slightly. Seeing that the two of them had seen through it, he didn't say anything else. Yi Qinghan said calmly, "The two of you, I'm gratified that you have such a state of mind today. I'm sure Emperor Liang and the Taigu Emperor can rest in peace." Lu Feng bowed again and said, "If not for Mansion Lord's guidance, I wouldn't have achieved what I have today. I wouldn't have seen things so clearly." Yi Qinghan patted Lu Feng and Chu Shijunxian's shoulders and said indifferently, "Everyone has their own destiny. In an instant, at least thousands of eyes in the secondary Saint territory turned to look in the direction of Yi Qinghan. Zing zing. Yi Qinghan subconsciously took a few steps back, not daring to look directly at the immortal Bao. Jian Bugui also subconsciously moved the hilt of his sword. The sound of the sword whistling reverberated in the sky, shaking the heavens. At this time, the entire secondary Saint territory was alarmed. This immortal Bao definitely came from a virtuous paragon. Once activated, it could threaten a virtuous paragon. The moment the Bao came out, Zhang Daoling bent his body at a 90-degree angle, not daring to show the slightest bit of blasphemy. This immortal Bao seemed to have its own consciousness and began to restrain its aura, no longer stealing the prestige of the heaven and earth. Yi Qinghan carefully looked at this immortal Bao. It was full of runes that he had never seen before. They were all used to support virtuous paragons and could instantly devour the power of a virtuous paragon. Because of this, ordinary virtuous paragons couldn't use this Bao. Otherwise, they would be devoured without leaving behind a corpse. This immortal Bao could kill both enemies and oneself. The body of the Bao was crimson while the bowstring was sky blue. The 9 arrows were like burning flames, capable of stealing one's soul. This immortal Bao was more than just as heavy as a star. This was the only difference between it and the Ho-I Bao. The Ho-I Bao wasn't as heavy, nor was it as sharp. It exuded killing intent. The Ho-I Bao looked very ordinary. Anyone could pick it up, but not just anyone could use it. It was also much more powerful than this immortal Bao imitation. Yi Qinghan bowed and accepted the immortal Bao. He gently pulled the bowstring, but it simply wouldn't budge. Even after using 30% of its power, the bowstring still wouldn't budge. 50% still didn't have much of a reaction. After 80%, the bowstring began to pull back slightly. However, one could feel that once the bowstring was released, even the stable space in this secondary Saint territory would be destroyed. Zhang Daoling warned in a serious tone, "Don't act recklessly. This Bao has never been used since it was born for war. Its murderous aura is too strong." Buzz. The Bao began to react as the runes were activated. Yi Qinghan felt the power in his body involuntarily rushing towards the immortal Bao. Whoosh. Yi Qinghan instinctively let go of the bowstring. Buzz. Whoosh. In an instant, the space in the secondary Saint territory fluctuated abnormally. A crack was directly torn open and an arrow of energy shot into the distance. An entire mountain was razed to the ground. Fuck, if you had given me this immortal Bao earlier, I wouldn't have had to deal with those sages from the secondary universe in fear. Yi Qinghan said in shock. Chapter 3064. Zhang Daoling was pessimistic because he understood the power of the 9 paragons. Meanwhile, Yi Qinghan was like a newborn calf that wasn't afraid of a tiger. He felt that there was still a chance. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and said, "We must find the sun-shooting immortal vanquishing Bao before the 9-star alignment." There was still time to find the sun-shooting immortal destroying Bao. "Senior, you should go look for it yourself. I will personally lead Insane Faction. I hope there is still time," Yi Qinghan solemnly suggested. Zhang Daoling nodded. Even if he didn't want to, he had no other choice. Yi Qinghan looked at Jian Bugui and said, "Bugui, you are our last hope. Try your best to reach the virtuous paragon realm." Jian Bugui also felt the pressure. The visual phenomena in the sky were too obvious. The 9 paragons that were being suppressed could rush out at any moment. At that time, the world would be completely overturned. Soon after, the 3 split up. Yi Qinghan entered the primal universe alone and worked with the divine bird to search. At this time, the world was in chaos. Insane Faction had to step up to maintain order and forcefully ordered all the great powers not to use this opportunity to cause trouble. Otherwise, they would become enemies with Insane Faction. The sacred ground was also within the scope of this order. Fortunately, Amethyst Sage, Xiaoyu Sage, and Qian Ishue Sage weren't extreme people. As for the Turtle Ancestor and Star Profound Sage, they wouldn't dare to oppose Insane Faction before obtaining the Bao. Insane Faction's prestige was like the sun at noon. All living beings in this world respected insane faction from their bones. This type of worship and yearning gave birth to endless merit points. As the insane faction lord, Yi Qinghan had endless merit points. However, his mental state had yet to stabilize. Otherwise, he would have reached the virtuous paragon realm soon. The merit points would only increase. Yi Qinghan could mobilize more power from the primal universe, making the search much easier. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan and Supremacy Yi quickly traveled through the primal chaos origin. No one had ever been to this place before. Black holes were everywhere, and spatial cracks were everywhere. If the sun-shooting immortal vanquishing bow was in a place like this, it would not have been obtained by others. Boss, these places can be devoured by the black holes at any moment. There are also black holes that can disappear in these places. We are truly trying our luck here. Supreme Sovereign Yi was also rather helpless. He was known as a little expert in treasure hunting, but he definitely could not hunt for treasures like this and look for specific treasures. The corners of Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched and his eyelids twitched. Time was of the essence, so there was no better way than this. Let's try our luck. As the saying goes, there's always a way out.